we constantly ask the working class, the middle class, to pay for the corporate failures. I want to express the end of that because as soon as I make that statement, I can understand where you're going to have right people on the right saying, "What are you saying? Government owning industry? That is communism." Not really, but I want to make a point here. Right now, back in the 60s and 70s, as we started exporting jobs, right? I mean, exporting, building our products overseas. In effect, that was exporting jobs. I want you to listen to this keenly. What that meant is corporations found that China, Vietnam, well, not Vietnam then, but China and other countries, since their labor was so cheap and since their environmental laws were so lax, it is a lot cheaper to build a product overseas. And therefore, the factories that were here would be gone. If you take a look at the textile alley back in the Carolinas and other places, gone. The garment factories in New York, gone overseas because they could make it much cheaper overseas and then ship it here. And that's fine, right? That is capitalism, the efficient allocation of resources. And if you can allocate resources in China and get a better allocation, fine. It does nothing for humanity, but it works. Now, Americans paid the price as those jobs got exported. The workers that lost their jobs, and by having more workers in America without jobs, it depresses the entire salary base because there are more people vying for a job, right? There are more people wanting the same job. Therefore, the employer doesn't have to pay all that much. So it depresses the entire working class as it enriches the rich because why? As they build the products cheaper overseas, their profit margins become that much larger. So we, the American people, paid the price with lower employment, lower wages for having these products made overseas. But that was chosen by the corporations. Now, there are also some caveats, right? If there is a snowstorm in one of these big cities that have these big factories, right? It affects our supply chain. If there's a pandemic, because we're building all this stuff overseas, it affects the supply chain. If there is a hurricane and several ships get overturned in the middle of the Atlantic or the Pacific or wherever, the supply chain gets broken and it means there are higher prices. And who paid those again? We, the working class, again, pays the higher prices because these corporate heathens decided to build everything or a large percentage overseas. And to further put some salt in the wound, they create something called JIT, just in time inventory, which means not only do they build the products overseas, but they don't store enough on American soil. They don't keep a reserve enough on American soil so that in the case of disruptions of this supply chain, Americans are not going to be sucked again with paying the price of the ineptitude or the selfishness and greed of the corporate sector. And that's what happened, in fact, with the pandemic, right? We always bear the burden. And every time we bear the burden, it's not a break even for corporations. They make even more money on the burden. You want an example? Let's take an example for oil shipments. Well, oil is not good because we're oil positive. Let's go ahead and take an example: garments that are going to Walmart, and the supply chain is broken. All right, the ships have sunk, etc. So we're going to have a 3-month supply chain lag. What Walmart does to the prices in the store, they raise the prices of those garments in the store. But guess what, guys? The garments didn't cost any more to make. Those garments were made on cheap labor, but the price goes up because there's a false scarcity, right? And as that price goes up and the price of the product really stayed the same, your pain of paying more for that garment means even more money for the rich person. Why again? Because guess what? The price of manufacture didn't change. So they make more money for selling less product. So they are always on the winning side of the equation. And my type of solution says, well, you know what? We're going to call your bluff. You always want to be on the winning side? Okay, let's make the working class be on the winning side. We want to have at least one garment factory that makes cloth. All right, we don't make machines that make cloth. We don't make any of these things anymore. So any corporations, go ahead and build it. Nobody build it. The government goes ahead and builds it, and they go ahead and hire people. And guess what? Guess what's the overhead? There's no executive to pay bonuses to. There are no shareholders to sell for profit. So all of that money that would have gone into the capitalist formation of a corporation now goes into the government. And if some corporation later wants to say, no, I want to be in that business, hey, be my guest, come on in. Right? But the government could actually act as a damper, as a buffer to the greed of corporations and put some balance into these things. Look, it's above my pay grade to do it, to have all those intricacies. But you know what, guys? If we really had a government by and of the people, we would create those mechanisms to force the corporate sector, not from bleeding us dry for absolutely everything, but for actually keeping a balance to make sure we all have equal access to success. We all have equal access to everything.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.